So I'm happy to be here, and I want to tell you first my first story of flow. My first story of flow is, I remember being I was 12 or 13 years old, and I was in high school. It was actually my very first year of high school, and I was on the wrestling team. I wasn't that good at wrestling, disclaimer, but I had everyone I know that was in the audience, so the pressure was on. And I just remember I'm walking in, and I had this cocky demeanor to me back then, and okay, so on the outside I'm cocky, but on the inside, man, I'm freaking out. I'm freaking out because the kid I'm going against is a badass, and it's known that he's a badass, and I'm wanting to be, but when it comes to wrestling, I certainly was not. So anyway, I don't know what I did. Well, I kind of know what I did. There's a saying, for Michael Jordan, in order for Michael Jordan to be the greatest basketball player ever, in order for him to make the shot, he must be willing to miss the shot. Otherwise, he'll be so nervous taking the shot, or he'll never take the shot. So there's something called the law of polarity, and the law of polarity says, in order for us to get to this level, we have to be okay with the opposite. And I guess for me in that moment, what I experienced was whatever. I mean, I don't see how this is going to happen. I'm going to give my best. I'm not going to try to lose, but if I do lose, it's not the end of the world. So once I was able to say that to myself, I believe what happened, because I didn't even know what flow state was back then. I believed what happened was I was able to take this part of my brain offline, and I'll talk about that in a moment, where the self-critic wasn't loud, wasn't present, and I was able to be there in the moment with my opponent. And what happened was, I was a scrawny little kid, right? I was a skinny little scrawny kid, and this kid was jacked up. So I was able to take my opponent, and when we went out there, I'm not sure how she got on our screen, but we got out there to slowly be in the moment with him, and I would see every one of his motions. It was almost like in slow motion. He would go this way, and I would pull back this way and use his energy and weight against him. And I was able to flip him, and I don't even know what I did. What I do remember, I remember it feeling easy. I remember feeling like everything slowed down. I remember feeling strong, stronger than I actually thought I was. And I remember pinning him. And that was awesome. I remember pinning him. I remember winning. So what is flow? What exactly is flow? Because that's what I experienced. Well, the Flow Education Alliance has put together amazing information, and I want to share this video with you, and then I'll come back in. We'll talk a little bit more about what flow state is. Here we go.
Flow Code, lesson number 1. What is a flow state? Hi, and I am Max Flow. I will be your leading voice through the complete FlowCode lessons. Let's peek first into what the flow state is all about. You know that state we're in, when we act with razor-sharp focus. Our confidence is overwhelmed with certainty. Our body and mind adapts to the situation effortlessly. It's in this state that we take giant steps in our level of fulfillment, moving in the direction that was previously not even dreamt of. In it, we are completely dissolved in what we're doing, so much that it feels like time is slowing down. We're so deeply in the present moment that we merge with activity itself, giving us the overwhelming feeling of being at one. In that state, there is no doubt. There are no stresses or pressures blocking us from achieving what we want. There's no inner voice criticizing every move we make. We are completely immersed in the task at hand. The state is not elusive. This state is not mythical. It's called the flow state. When we are in flow, we are adjusting to reality cues, like riding a flow wave. we experience the most desirable state we may find ourselves in. It's about total trust and total absence of fear, a sense of extreme happiness, connectedness, and harmony pervades into your being. You feel in tune with the task, moving with an accuracy and composure, and fully enjoy every second of it. Athletes call it runner's high, or being in the zone. Others call it a heightened state of consciousness. Buddhists call it nirvana. We call it the state of flow, a fluid stream of optimal perception and optimal experience, a state where everything just flows.
Awesome. What's amazing about the Flow Education Alliance is not only do they have the top science, their graphics are insane. Like our graphics, I say there, I'm there with us. Our graphics are really insane. And we have the ability to break this stuff down in ways that I have not in the last 10 years seen broken down. And I'm really excited about that. So we're going to talk a little bit about flow, but before we talk about flow, let's talk about something that's really important pertaining to flow. What time is it? What time is it? Everybody look. And then notice what you're looking at probably is the clock or a watch. And you're seeing that it's 8:19 or 5:19 or wherever you are in the world, something 19, right? But how long does that last? That lasts for 1 minute, 1 minute only. So time in that sense is limited. And our mind, our front cerebral cortex, our analytical mind, our judgmental mind needs that type of limitation or that type of definition, if you will, in order to navigate through this world. It's very useful, right? It's very useful to use that logical mind. That logical mind also lives in the past. And the past is limited because it's everything from over there up until now. It stops right here. And when we put our energy into the past, we're putting our energy into something we can't control. Now remember, I work with pro athletes, and it's important for them not to be focused on that last play, because if they're in that last play, guess where they're not? In the current play. Which means they're putting their energy into something they cannot control, rather than being completely present in the moment and putting their energy into everything that's within their power. The mind also lives in the future. The future is limited because it only starts right here. Everything over there has nothing to do with the future. The future begins right here. And oftentimes, when we're living in the future, essentially what we're doing is the same. We're putting our energy into something we cannot control. And by the way, this is why people have anxiety. It's because they live in the future with a perception that is worry-based. That's a whole nother workshop. If you're interested in more about overcoming anxiety and mastering that, please shoot me an email and I'll share some information with you that can help. But if you could control the future, you wouldn't have to play the game. You go there and you snap your finger and be like, I won. All of our power is in the now. There's something called transient hypofrontality. Transient hypofrontality. What that means is it is the gradual slowing down of the front cerebral cortex. It is the slowing down of the analytical mind. So I want you to imagine you're on the dance floor and there's a beat, right? And as that beat is kicking, you start moving a little bit, right? So you start feeling that music, right? And as you're feeling the music, all of a sudden, you become self-conscious. And as you become self-conscious, what happens? You take yourself out of the moment because you're analyzing. So when you're analyzing the moment, you're not in the moment, right? So what happens when you're able to slow down your prefrontal cortex? What happens, that analytical mind, when you're able to slow it down, when you're able to slow down that inner critic, and that inner critic isn't mastering this situation, it isn't mastering you. But what happens is when that begins to go and quiet down, you begin to open something else up. And I call that your creativity or your creative power. Creator uses us creatively, always available, always have access to it, except our ego, which can be, aligned with the front cerebral cortex, edging God out. When that's loud and you believe that it is what it is and that's what it's going to be and it's never going to be anything else, so you're in your head because you're worried about how it is, well, then you are very loud, and that inner critic is very loud, and because of that, you're not able to connect to that rhythm. You're not able to connect to that beat. You're not able to be in the moment and really, really feel yourself. And let me say this. When I love to dance, or when I box, or when I do anything athletic, but more artistic in this case, if I'm out somewhere and there's music, the first thing I want to do is I want to catch that beat, right? I want to hear that beat. And the next thing I want to do to get out of my head, I want to begin moving just a little bit, but aligning my breath with the beat. So it's the breath is the master of the mind. If you can master your breathing, you'll master your thinking. And that's what I want to do. I want to bring the mind back to the moment so that I can master it. So what happens when I do that? What happens when an athlete slowly begins to access the zone? Well, before I go into that, what's very cool is at 14, I accessed the zone. 13, whatever age I was, I accessed the zone. I accessed flow state. I had no clue what it was. I had no clue how it happened. It was like I tripped up and I fell into something really powerful and beautiful that probably for the majority of my life thought was just like luck, right? I thought it was luck. And I would be out dancing and I would be in the moment and I would feel it. Oh my God, I got lucky again. And then other nights I would be out dancing and I don't feel it. I'm like, man, I wish I was lucky, right? I was in my head. What's cool is that science has now been able to identify that this state that I found at a very early age, that athletes and runners are finding now, or experiencing now, there is a specific science to it. We know it exists, and we know what goes on in our bodies as we are entering it. And let's start with the brain waves. So when we are entering flow, essentially what's happening is our brain waves are going from beta and then slowly going into alpha. And what happens when our brain waves transition from beta into alpha, we are able to link ideas and concepts together quickly. So I want you to imagine like you're on the spot and you're in your head. So you're in the office or you're with your kids or wherever you're doing, right? And like something important is happening and you don't want to mess up, so you become very self-critical and you become worried, right? And you're in your head. Your front cerebral cortex is online, it's loud, it's kicking, and it's dominating, right? Well, you're not able to perform at your best. But imagine it begins to slow down. And now that it slows down, it's as if the world opens up. And as it opens up, you can see much more clearly. And you can connect this with this. And you can feel your power. And you can move with fluidity and navigate through situations with grace, with ease, with joy, playfulness. And these are characteristics of flow state. What also happens when you enter flow state, when you're in flow state, I should say, is your body starts producing norepinephrine and dopamine. And what are these chemicals do for our body? Well, they begin to slow things down and they give us like enhanced focus and they give us enhanced joy. And that's a beautiful thing. So just imagine for a moment that you're able to link things together and your body is producing chemicals that are enhancing your joy and enhancing your focus. Well, these are some of the things that are happening when we're in flow state. Brain waves are slowing, endorphins, chemicals are being produced by the body. So I want to go and take a step back for a moment. And now we know a little bit about what happens when we're actually in flow state. We know what flow state is. Again, flow state is when you're in that state where things are coming with ease and grace, and you feel powerful, and you feel joy. Things are just flowing for you, right? And now we know physiologically what's going on within the body. Well, I'm going to take a step back so I can share some things with you that I share with my clients. And I find this to be very important. And I find this to be one of the bridges to explaining flow state. There are three types of focus. Three types of focus. Now, this is just a framework, right? Like, this isn't written in the gospel, and this isn't written anywhere. This is just something that I use myself with my clients. The three types of focus are: one, what I refer to as universal focus. Universal focus is where you just see everything around you as energy. You don't assign judgment, you don't assign meaning to it. It's simply energy. That's all it is, right? So I want you to imagine you're Tom Brady and you run out onto the field, and there's 60,000 people in a stadium. You hear it, you see it, you feel it. So it's there for you, it's alive for you. Now, what happens when you're hearing it and seeing and feeling it? Well, depends on how you perceive that energy. If you perceive that energy like, oh no, essentially what's going to happen is you're going to contract. You're going to tighten up. Your breathing is going to become short and shallow. Erwin Valencia, it's great to see you, brother. Amazing man. Longtime friend, also a FlowCode expert. And what happens is you begin to tighten up and contract. And you know, if you've played sports, that being tight on the field, contracted, is not going to lead to your success. Just like in the office or in the boardroom or as a partner in a relationship or in anything that you want to be able to perform at your best, you want to be free. You want to be loose. You want to be in that moment and completely feeling it, right? Because that's where you feel more powerful. Now, I took us through some breathing earlier. Why? Because the breath is the master of the mind, yes. And 70% of our metabolic waste is released through our breathing. So imagine those 70,000 people are screaming, right? And 70% of our metabolic waste is released through our breathing. We know that whatever our psychological or emotional state is, our breathing is going to mirror it. So if I have that oh no response, my breathing becomes short and shallow, I clench up. 70% of my metabolic waste is released through my breathing. So when I am clenched up like this, what's happening? I'm holding on to those toxins. When I hold on to those toxins, what happens? My body feels tight. When my body feels tight, I'm sending a message to my nervous system, we're in trouble. My sympathetic nervous system is kicked in, I'm in fight or flight, and here I am, I'm tensed up. And when I'm tensed up, I'm sending the oh no message back to my brain, and it becomes the cycle. My brain is producing these thoughts, my mind is producing these thoughts of, oh no, I'm starting to feel tight and clenched and worried, my breath is becoming short and shallow, I'm holding on to toxins, I'm sending message to my nervous system, it's going back to my mind, and that's where we go through the downward spiral that we talk about in sports. That was a side note. Back to the three types of focus. So the first type is universal focus. You see, everything is energy. The second type of focus is laser focus. And laser focus is where you put all of your energy into one thing. A laser focus, right? It's me and you, baby. Or it's me and the ball. Or it's me and whatever I'm focused on, my assignment, my task. And what happens is when I'm in that space of complete focus, let's say somebody's going like this to me, or screaming across the hallway, or yelling. Most people would call that person or that sound, what? Think about it. They call it a distraction. And as soon as you call it a distraction, what power did you just give it? The power to distract you. So what we do is we, one, recognize that everything is energy, and we are focused, and when we're focused, and we have whatever we're calling as distraction, we're not seeing it as distraction. We're actually simply seeing it as a reminder and actually fuel that we're not resisting. Resisting is a major thing that takes us out of flow, resistance. We're not resisting that. We're okay with it. We're making peace with the fact that it's there. And now we're taking it in and we're channeling that energy towards our focus. We just mastered that situation. The third type of focus is presence. Presence, it's kind of hard to show you this, but presence is being completely one with everything. I'm present in the moment. In boxing, I'm present with my opponent. So what does that mean? Well, imagine you're on the dance floor, right? Your partner is there. Well, if your front cerebral cortex is online and you're tripping over your thoughts, you're not only going to be tripping over your thoughts, you're also going to be tripping over your partner, right? Because you're going to be anticipating where your partner's going next. You're going to be in your head as opposed to being present. Because when you're present, essentially what it is you can feel the ebb and flow. You can feel the movement as they're occurring, and you can be one with that person. Now imagine a punch is coming at me and I'm one with my opponent, right? That punch is coming and I can feel it. And as I feel it, I can move and I can land. But if I'm sitting there saying, okay, he's about to throw a punch because I saw his hips move, and then all of a sudden, like by the time I said that, boom, I got a black eye and a bloody nose. I just got knocked out, possibly, because I was in my head as opposed to being in the moment. And we know that flow is being in the moment. We can't control the past. We can't control the future. All of our power is now. Flow doesn't happen there. It doesn't happen there. It happens here. And when we resist, we're pushing away what's in the moment because we're in a judgment. We don't like it. And because of that, we have no power in the moment. Okay, so what's awesome? What's awesome is that we know this exists. We know that flow exists. And there's a lot more I can go into about the science of it. And if you're interested, we can have a conversation, but that's also webinars, different webinars that I do. We know that this exists. We know that the state called flow exists. The science is there. We know what's going on in the body and in the brain when we're in flow, right? So, and we know that flow is amazing. We know that flow is the key, the portal. I like this. Flow is the portal to our power. Never said that before, but that's what it is. Flow is the portal to our power. Okay, we know that. And I want you to imagine for a moment that there was this island that if you got to the island, it was pure bliss. It was almost like utopia. They got abundance of money, abundance of kindness, an abundance of opportunity, a freedom to fully express yourself authentically, and love and kindness, all of that stuff, right? We'd all want to go, I'm sure. We'd all want to go. But the question is, it may exist, but what are the directions? How do we even get there? Well, that island is flow state. The directions to getting there, that's flow code. And that's what I want to share a little bit more with you tonight about. How do we get into flow code? Well, going back to what I was sharing before, the Flow Education Alliance has produced amazing material and insights and copy and techniques and tools that help us to tap into it. What I want to do now is I want to share another video from us for you to watch, and we're going to learn a little bit about tapping into it, and then I'm going to share a little bit more. And again, we are the Flow Education Alliance.
FlowCode lesson number 22, Flow Trigger Channels. Hi, this is Max Flow. Let's check the flow trigger channels that are used to create conditions for transient hypofrontality and subsequent experience of flow. Flow trigger channels are pathways of interventions on the perception of the individual. They serve as a tool to trigger all the needed conditions to assure optimal setup to experience flow. basic intention is to bring the perception into the realm of total immersion, into the present experience, and establish a mentally and emotionally safe interperception framework. It consists of different methods of disillusion. FlowCode recognizes 4 main channels of interventions: sensory, cognitive, social, and environmental flow alignment channel. Let's look first into sensory flow alignment, or influence through perception senses. Any activity that embodies or creates incoming stimulus perceived by the body is a driving force to induce hypofrontality. While all senses are included in designing flow interventions, the basic intention is to overflow perception with incoming information from the body's sensoric network and create a sense of deep embodiment. Cognitive flow alignment, influence through internal cognitive activity, ability to recall images and impressions and being able to modify them to experience more flow-prone mindset is an excellent source for flow experience. It is essential in terms of creating, maintaining a basic focus to seek out and experience the state of flow. Social flow alignment, influence through social group context. Humans are social creatures. It's just more fun to do anything in a group. It keeps the motivation going and it boosts the experience of an individual flow. So doing it in a group helps us to get the flow and stay in it. Environmental flow alignment, influence through enclosing environment. Being in nature, especially near water, makes us healthier and happier, reduces stress, and brings us peace. The electromagnetic resonance of the body will be affected by the Earth's natural electromagnetic field, and eventually the two will resonate harmonically.
We're going to talk a little bit about the channels, but before we go into the channels, let's look at this. Mamma mia, mama, oh say can you. So I imagine in your mind you said Mia and then you said si. Essentially what happened was I triggered you by what I was saying to think about those things and to say those things. Well, imagine going through life, and as you go through life, all of a sudden, like, you can be in a really good mood, and before you know it, like, you're in a horrible mood, and you don't know why. Well, subconsciously, there's something going on underneath the hood that you either saw, smelled, tasted, felt, remember the 5 senses, or you're in an environment that, or around people that elicited these types of things, or you got into a thought pattern, the 4 chambers, the 4 channels to entering flow, right? So it's very simple. Like, we can turn our beautiful day into something horrific and not even know what happened because something triggered us. Now, there's something called redirecting triggers. So I was on a podcast yesterday, and she's actually on here, Marguerite, and I will put her information in the chat bar because she's phenomenal, and you guys should check her out and check her podcast out. I'm getting instruction from over here. What were you saying? Margaret, can you put your information in the chat room? Wow, I've got a great team around me that helps with these simple things. Yes, please put your information so people can follow you. You're amazing. And essentially, I was telling a story that when I was younger, I had an addiction. And what would happen was I would drive down I-95 and I would see this billboard. And every time I saw that billboard, I would just get this feeling that I would want to go use, right? So that billboard had something going on with it that I would see and think that elicited this desire to go use. It was a trigger. And what I learned to do when I realized it was a trigger was to use that trigger. And instead of like taking the trigger to go use, what I would do is I would take that trigger and I would do specific types of breathing and thinking, and I would do like ab crunches as I'm driving my car, right? So I was able to take that trigger and redirect it. So redirect it from going to use drugs and redirect it towards doing something that's healthy for me. What I want to show you right now is Jason Banana Rosario. He's one of the guys I work with, He is world champion. Actually, he's two-time world champion boxer and current world champion. And he has a huge fight coming up on September 26th. And if you're watching this, I hope you guys are in our corner because we're in your corner and you root for Jason. But what I want to show you is he and I doing some work for FlowCode training. And what you saw there was a couple things. You couldn't hear the breathing, but it was, I'm sorry. That was it. It was a 4 combination and a straight 2. So we were focused on the breathing. We were focused on touching, the mitts touching my hands. Ta, ta, ta. We were focused on the music, remember the senses. We were in an environment that was really safe and powerful for him. And we can create that when we go into the stadium when he's fighting also. And this is what we were doing. What we were doing is we were gradually hypofrontality, transient hypofrontality. We were gradually taking his mind, the analytical mind, offline, and he was focused on his breath. And when he did that over and over again, you just get lost. You get lost in the momentum. You get lost in the flow. And essentially what happens there, because he's a champion, he trained so hard, he's able to access all of these tools that he spent his whole life developing. Imagine that. More calm. Dr. Nizar, you're on here, my brother. He and I are doing amazing programs together. More on that later. You're going to be able to access more calm, more clarity, and more access to your intrinsic capabilities. That's beautiful. And now we know how to do it. We do it through the 4 channels. And those 4 channels, once again, are your 5 senses, right? So you tap into those 5 senses and you create sound. You create rhythm, you create the optics, you create the smell, you create the touch, the hands, right? And I'll share more about this with you on other presentations, but this is how you begin to access flow. Also by being in the right environment, also by having the right perspectives. And I saw somebody put a question in here about, oh, I can't access it. Okay. Oh, it's a private. Got it. It's a private message. So I got a message that says you said something about resistance. Can you talk more about that? Yeah, I will. Right here. They're able to access flow because there's no resistance. What does that mean? 2 football teams are playing. And as they're playing, both teams prepared to play on a sunny day. Weather forecast was tomorrow is going to be sunny. So they all set their game plan to perform in the sun, which means they're going to throw the ball a lot, so forth and so on. Now, all of a sudden, the rain comes in. Major storm comes in. One team is like, oh no, they're mad, they're upset because they practiced so hard a certain way and their game plan is ruined. The other team is like, okay, cool. Who do you think is going to win that game? The one who didn't resist. The one who did not resist. So I just want to share a real quick tidbit that I share with my clients. Whenever you are performing, wherever you are doing something, you're going to inevitably face a challenge. And in life, you're going to face a challenge. In flow, you are in oneness with everything. The frontocerebral cortex, the analytical mind, the ego, whatever you want to call it, is what creates that judgment. It is what looks at what's coming and says, this sucks. I hate this. Oh no, hate it. Well, that is what takes away your power. Because as soon as you say those things and you think those things, you begin to tense up, you begin to crunch up, and you're not able to perform at your best. It's almost like you go into a corner and you say, oh my God, I know what this is going to turn out like because this showed up. I know I'm not going to be able to play great because the rain came in, right? And because that's what you think, that's what you're creating for yourself. But when you say, okay, the rain is coming, and the rain could be anything that you're experiencing in your life. The storm is coming, the challenge is coming, whatever it is. And when you see it and you feel it, you make peace with it. Okay, that's cool. It's here. What are my options? Because as soon as you make peace with it, you take away the stress that happens from the stress that it's happening. In other words, stress is happening, and then you start to judge it, and you start putting another layer of stress on top of the stress, and that's how you go down the spiral. But if you make peace with whatever it is, what happens then is simpler. You're then able to say, okay, cool. I'm at peace with the fact that this is in front of me, whatever that challenge might be. What are my options? I can either complain. Where's that going to get me? I can either say, cool, breathe, reload, recalibrate, get myself back into state. And that's a whole nother webinar, by the way, being able to shift your state to be able to navigate at the highest level. Or I could just quit. That's really not an option, or for some it might be. But if you're going into flow state, you make peace with it, you look at your options, and then you say, what is it that I want? These are my options. This is the one I'm going to choose. And these are the steps I'm going to take in a moment to get there. And you're able to get back into flow with what's happening. And so, this webinar is only an hour. I wish it was more. This is a topic that I do over weekends, 16 hours at times. And there's a lot of information that goes into it. But what I want is for you to just take a moment and just imagine. Actually, let's sit back for a moment. And imagine you're doing something that's important to you. It can be hanging out with your friends. It could be going into a business meeting. It could be painting. It could be playing the piano. It could be playing a game. It could be anything, something that's important to you. And I want you to imagine that you are able to get into flow, that you're in flow. So you're in that space of comfort. You're in that space of confidence and calm, where things are coming with ease and you have access to your full capabilities, right? Just imagine what that is like. And now imagine you've looked at the FlowCode tools that I just shared with you. I shared the 4 channels, but let's say you had a plethora, we're talking maybe over 500 exercises that utilizes those channels at your disposal so that you can enter flow at any time. Well, we at the Flow Education Alliance have put that together for you. And we are offering that to you in our Flow portal. Video, please. And the Flow portal, the FlowCode portal, I'm going to show you a little bit about that now, is something that you have at your disposal where you can access FlowCode by utilizing these channels. And let me show you how it works.
Nirvana.
Become a master of flow and unravel your superhuman potential with a unique and revolutionary approach supported by highly scientific and time-tested flow triggers and programs. Join the FlowHub and take advantage of the world's most comprehensive portal based on the principles of the FlowCode, your designated space for hacking into the state of flow. What do you get? Comprehensive FlowCode lessons and professional video tutorials explaining every possible aspect of flow and how to hack into it. Learn about the latest cutting-edge science behind flow. Enjoy over 500 different flow triggers and rituals with progressive, basic, advanced, and master level program options. Embark on a journey of finding perfect fluidity in every situation. super rich library of flow triggers, breathwork-based flow triggers, flow alignment rituals, flow trigger sets, sensory, cognitive, social, and environmental flow alignment triggers. Explore comprehensive flow programs that are geared toward achieving the state of flow and based on scientific training principles. Find different programs based on activity at hand, ranging from everyday life to sport to workplace and many more. FlowCode principles are integrated into every program, ensuring a professional approach and a wide variety of super effective flow interventions. Further boost your flow with FlowHub blog stream, where you can learn continuously through different flow-related articles, tips, and tricks. New flow triggers and practices are added constantly, so there's always something new for you to enjoy and explore. Find your way into the flow, the most desirable state you want to be in. Join thousands of members around the world who are already changing their lives and the lives of everyone around them into a fascinating, joyous, and magical one breath at a time. Join us in our efforts to bring flow and unity across this fascinating world. Let's flow together.
So we're also in the process right now of creating flow-specific flow triggers, specific to boxers. What I just showed you, there's over 500 exercises that can help you on the dime access flow. And if you know what went into it, the science, the work, the years and years of research, all of that, you'd be insanely surprised at how much we are selling this for. We're selling it for $11.71 per month. $11.71 per month to have full access to the FlowHub 7 app. So you'd have the app on your phone, and whenever you're doing something massive, major, or just whenever you want to experience flow, tune into the FlowHub 7, put on one of the videos, and you follow the instruction. And in that moment, you will be guided into the state that we call flow, where your brain waves are flowing at a certain frequency, where your body is producing the high performance chemicals, and when you're focused in the moment and you're breathing the optimum way. That's for $11.71. And in addition to that, we have the ability to give you a 10% discount. And if you're interested in that, you'll notice that in the chat room. I'll put that in now. There it is. So that's not the right thing, actually. Oh, it's all there. Okay, so in addition to the FlowHub 7, I strongly advise everyone to make that small investment for $11.71 per month, to jump on that, have that on your phone, and utilize it. Think of it this way. Your brain is a muscle. Just like these are muscles, you have muscles all over your body, and your muscles require exercise in order to stay in shape. Your brain requires the same thing. Think about it. Your feet are for walking. Your hands are for grabbing. You didn't just learn how to walk. You didn't just like stand up and all of a sudden start walking with your feet facing a certain direction, one foot in front of the other. It took practice. Well, we've never been taught to think. We've been taught what to think. We haven't been taught how to think. And we haven't been taught how to access flow. And for $11.71, you have the opportunity to learn how to do that on your phone whenever you want. In addition to that, I am offering my own personal group coaching program. It's called Master Your Breath, Mind, and Life. It starts on August 26th, and that is for $597. That is about an 80% discount for my coaching programs. I highly recommend, if you want to work with me directly in a small group of like-minded people where we're addressing your specific needs, your specific focuses, and we're catering specific flow code rituals to help you get into flow, I highly recommend you click that link that says Master Your Breath, Mind, and Life and learn more about that program. sign up. And if you want to ask me questions offline, feel free to send me an email to mjrflowcode@gmail. mjrflowcode@gmail or mike@trueperformancecoaching.com. Lastly, if you are interested, and this is amazing, I work with the best athletes in the world. I work with some celebrities and I work with some of the top people in the world because I have a tool that other coaches do not, and they want this. If you are interested in becoming a FlowCode coach, you can also register, sign up to do that, and we will be sending out an email that has more information for you to be able to do so. Again, you'll be getting the 10% off. I highly recommend, I actually recommend you take advantage of all three of these offers. They're all amazing. They will change your life. They will help you change other people's lives. It is awesome to spend this time with you. It's 8:59. Our cutoff time is 9. Let's all stay in flow. Thanks for joining. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. And last but not least, follow me on Instagram, mjrflowcode. Thank you so much.